Hello. Today we are going to learn a fundamental concept in accounting and finance: how to calculate simple depreciation for assets. By the end of this session, you will be able to define what simple depreciation is and use the straight line formula to calculate the annual expense for any business asset. Depreciation is the process of allocating the cost of a tangible asset over its useful life. It represents how much of an asset's value has been used up. Before we dive into the math, we need to understand the three key components required for the calculation. First, we have the asset cost. This is the total amount paid to acquire the asset, including shipping and installation. Next is the salvage value, sometimes called residual value. This is the estimated amount the asset will be worth at the end of its useful life. Finally, we have the useful life. This is the period of time, usually expressed in years, that the asset is expected to be functional and productive for the business. Think of it this way: the asset cost is your starting point, the salvage value is your finish line, and the useful life is the time it takes to get there.
Now, let's look at the formula for the most common method of simple depreciation, known as the straight line method. The goal is to find the annual depreciation expense, which is the amount of value the asset loses every single year. To calculate this, we take the asset cost and subtract the salvage value. This top part of the fraction represents the depreciable base, or the total amount of value that will be lost over time. Then, we divide that total amount by the number of years in the useful life. This gives us a consistent straight line expense for every year of the asset's life. It's the simplest and most widely used method because it assumes the asset disappears at a constant rate. Let's put this formula into practice with a worked example. Imagine a small business buys a high-end delivery van. The cost of the van is $45,000. The business expects that after 8 years of hard work, they can sell the van for $5,000. This gives us a useful life of 8 years. First, we find the depreciable base by subtracting the $5,000 salvage value from the $45,000 cost. This means the van will lose $40,000 of value over its lifetime. Now, we divide that $40,000 by the 8 years of service. 40,000 divided by 8 equals 5,000. So the annual depreciation expense for this van is $5,000 per year. Notice how the amount stays exactly the same every year. That's why we call it straight line depreciation. To wrap up, let's look at how this affects the value of the asset on the company's books over time. This is known as the book value. The book value is simply the original cost minus all the depreciation that has been recorded up to that point. If we graph our delivery van example, you can see a clear, straight line sloping downward. At year 0, the value is $45,000. After 1 year, we subtract $5,000, leaving us with a book value of $40,000. By year 4, we have subtracted $20,000 in total, so the book value is $25,000. Finally, at the end of year 8, the value hits the $5,000 mark, our salvage value. The asset is now fully depreciated. Take a moment to think. If the salvage value were 0, where would this line end? That's right, it would touch the horizontal axis. Understanding this visual helps you see exactly how the expense is spread out. Great work today! We have successfully covered the essentials of simple depreciation. To recap, we defined the 3 essential components: the initial cost, the salvage value, and the useful life. We also applied the straight line formula, which is the asset cost minus the salvage value, all divided by the useful life. We also saw through our delivery van example that this method creates a predictable, steady expense that reduces the asset's book value down to its salvage value over time. You are now equipped to calculate the annual depreciation for any basic business asset. Whether it is a computer, a piece of machinery, or a vehicle, the logic remains the same. Try practicing with different numbers to see how the annual expense changes. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next lesson.